All right, let's dive right into this explainer and look at how suspense is absolutely masterfully crafted in the short thriller, The Last Bus. We are going to literally dissect the anatomy of a ghost story here. We'll see how an author takes a totally incredibly mundane situation and then, just slowly warps it into an absolute nightmare. We're going to see exactly how that tension is structured, step by agonizing step. By the end of this, you're going to see exactly how the mechanics of fear really operate in a well-told narrative. So we're analyzing how a mundane late-night commute spirals into pure terror, and it all starts with this one chilling promise. This bus takes everyone where they truly belong. It actually sounds almost poetic, doesn't it? Like maybe even comforting on the surface. But in the context of our story, it is a terrifying threat. You see, in any really good suspense narrative, dialogue often does double duty, giving the protagonist this false sense of comfort while basically winking at us, the audience, about the impending doom. This single sentence totally encapsulates the dread of the last bus, and we're going to break down exactly how our main guy, Ravi, gets to the point of actually hearing it. To understand how this tension is built, let's start with Section 1, a rainy midnight departure. Okay, picture this. It's 11:45 p.m. Ravi is just leaving his office in Visakhapatnam. The streets are completely empty, the rain is just pouring down, and his critical thinking, well, that takes a massive backseat to his immediate need for shelter. Look, when you're stranded at almost midnight in a heavy downpour, you just want to get home, right? So when this old bus slowly rolls up a few minutes later with a route number that's barely even visible, Ravi isn't questioning it. He is just relieved. And guys, this is the perfect trap. The author completely isolates the protagonist, stripping away his options until boarding this mysterious vehicle feels like the only logical choice. But as we'll see, this mundane choice ends with him being found unconscious on a highway the very next morning. So let's look at what actually happens in between. Which brings us right into Section 2, the silent passengers. Once inside the bus, the author methodically starts stacking up these subtle red flags. First off, nobody spoke. Okay, fine, it's late, so maybe people are just tired, right? But then, you notice nobody is using their phones. In our modern world, an entire group of waiting commuters just ignoring their screens? That is highly unusual. And the air inside the bus isn't just cool, it is literally freezing cold. Every single passenger is sitting there completely immobilized with their heads bowed down. And then, the absolute nail in the coffin of normalcy. Ravi checks his phone, and there is zero cell signal. The narrative is slowly turning up the heat here, taking the atmosphere from a quiet commute to something deeply, deeply wrong, and methodically stripping away Ravi's connection to the real world. Now, the narrative pivots right here with a flat-out physical impossibility. On one hand, Ravi feels the physical sensation of momentum, like the bus is moving fast. But his visual reality contradicts this entirely. Outside the windows, there are no roads. There's only thick fog. I mean, you can't have a fast-moving bus with no road beneath it, right? The fog acts as this literal and metaphorical wall, trapping Ravi inside this freezing, silent box that's just hurtling through nowhere. The claustrophobia the author creates here is honestly excellent. The outside world has essentially ceased to exist for our protagonist. That unbearable silence is finally broken in Section 3, Chilling Revelations. Remember when Ravi first boarded? The conductor's soft, eerie invitation is exactly what seals Ravi's fate. Get in. This is the last bus. You really have to consider the dual meaning here. To a totally exhausted office worker at 11:45 at night, the last bus just means the final scheduled route of the evening. But in the supernatural context the author is building, it means the final journey of someone's existence. Ravi willingly stepped across this threshold purely because he only understood the mundane definition. It's just a brilliant use of dramatic irony. So the tension escalates incredibly sharply when an old man sitting next to him leans in. Ravi is already low-key panicking about the fog and the speed, but he smiles nervously and confirms, yeah, it's his first time. The old man just stares outside into that thick, impossible fog and whispers, "First time on this bus? This bus takes everyone where they truly belong." Notice how that dialogue doesn't even attempt to answer Ravi's unasked questions. Instead, it implies judgment, it implies finality, a destination way, way beyond a normal bus route, and a fate that Ravi definitely cannot escape by just simply pulling the stop cord. And that ominous moment is immediately followed by a woman softly crying over a photograph of a little girl. She whispers, "I still want to go home." This specific moment completely shifts the horror from being purely atmospheric to deeply, deeply emotional. These aren't just some random faceless monsters. These are trapped souls experiencing eternal grief. The woman's desperate desire to go home contrasts so brutally with the old man's claim that they are going where they truly belong. It tells Ravi, and frankly us as the reader, that whatever this destination is, it is absolutely not a place of comfort, and the people here are not willing passengers. They are prisoners. All of these terrifying pieces finally fall into place in Section 4, The Ghostly Driver. The true realization happens in this rapid, horrifying sequence. First, we get a classic horror trope. The lights inside the bus start to flicker, totally destabilizing the environment. Ravi looks up to the driver's mirror for some kind of reassurance, but instead he sees a face with only glowing white eyes. Absolute panic sets in. He rushes over to the conductor, literally begging to get off, but the conductor lifts this pale face, revealing completely black eyes, and whispers that he cannot leave. And then comes the final devastating blow. Ravi spots a framed 2012 newspaper clipping at the back of the bus. It's a memorial for crash victims. The picture perfectly matches the bus he is currently standing on. The driver in the picture? It's the exact same driver. The author uses this physical object to just solidly anchor the supernatural terror right into a historical reality. Ravi realizes with absolute certainty he is trapped on a ghost bus with a demonic crew. Ravi frantically smashes the window and jumps out into the blackness, which brings us to Section 5, the final twist. Waking up the next morning, the local villagers deliver the grim reality of the urban legend that Ravi just narrowly survived. After he wakes up screaming, demanding to know where the bus went, this frightened old man delivers the chilling truth. People say a ghost bus appears on this road after midnight, but that bus crashed into a valley 10 years ago. This totally validates Ravi's entire horrific experience. It wasn't just some wild hallucination brought on by exhaustion. He had literally boarded a tragedy that had been repeating itself for a decade. That crash into a valley 10 years ago explains literally everything. The impossible speed, the freezing cold air, the grieving passengers, and of course, the demonic crew driving them endlessly to quote-unquote where they belong. But, the author doesn't just let him escape completely unscathed. After hearing the villager's story, Ravi slowly opens his trembling hand. Inside, he finds a physical bus ticket. Written across it are just 2 chilling words: Final Journey. Guys, this is a spectacular ending mechanism. In a lot of stories, a character waking up the next day might just write off terrifying events as a really bad nightmare. But the author leaves Ravi and us with a piece of physical, undeniable evidence pulled directly from the supernatural realm right into the real world. That ticket is a permanent reminder that he brushed right up against death and that the ghost bus is undeniably real. It is a masterful breakdown of tension that taps perfectly into our universal fears of being alone at night, of trusting strangers, and of completely losing control of our destination. By isolating the protagonist, subtly layering in unnatural clues, and culminating in a horrific reveal anchored by physical evidence, The Last Bus creates an incredibly effective narrative of suspense. Which leaves us with one final, haunting thought to wrap up this explainer. Picture yourself after a long, exhausting day, standing all alone in the freezing rain. If the last bus arrived for you tonight, would you get on?
Like, share, and subscribe for more videos.